There's sort of a buzz around the idea of data journalism at the moment, but in practice, data has been used in journalism for over a century, so that's nothing new. What is new is the ability to allow users to drill down into the data, which is really only possible online, and so that's the major shift that's happened in the last decade or so, and it's just become very different. It's become a lot more immersive and a lot more detailed than was previously possible with the constraints of print. One of the beauties of this role is that we're kind of inventing new forms of storytelling, so there isn't really just a recipe that we follow. It kind of depends on each story what the process is. Some things are much more interactive, where the user has to drill into the story and explore the data themselves. But other things are a lot more explanatory, where we sort of lay it out in a much more traditional linear form. If a story has a lot of data at its core, and that data is quite complex, then it's often appropriate to use interactivity. But sometimes it's not appropriate to use interactivity. There's often a sense that interactivity is a good thing just in and of itself, like it just makes things more interesting, but that's often a false assumption. Interactivity is quite hard for people to use, and so we want to use it really sparingly, only in those cases where it's really required.
So now what we really want to do is have much more of a focus on what is the role of the data to our reader. What is this reader going to benefit from in terms of reading our content? And if it's going to be interactive, for example, then we have to reward the reader for bothering to interact. That it shouldn't just be gratuitous data everywhere and interactivity everywhere. These things should be designed for the story that they're supporting. So in fact, in general trends at the moment, we're probably seeing a dialing back of things like interactive graphics at the moment. What's much more important for us at the moment is effective static graphics that work well on lots of different types of devices. And so a very sort of real challenge for us right now is to bring the workflow much closer together, so that irrespective of what platform we're producing content for, we can do it in a single efficient manner, basically. And that's a problem for a lot of news organizations, is when you have production systems that are targeting a single platform. Well, how many platforms are you supporting these days? A lot. There's a lot of inefficiency in having platforms, production systems per platform. So we're trying to integrate our production system at the moment, and using a lot of web technology to do things like drive print graphics, for example, or spinning out social media styled versions of graphics at the same time of creating an interactive or a static image for online. So that's a very real challenge for us right now. Part of my role is to try and bring graphics, data, and interactive all closer together, so that it feels like more of a coherent single team, rather than what has traditionally been the case in a newsroom, which is that you have small little teams that do their own thing in little corners, and there's very little by way of overlaps. So what we want to do is use modern technology, confidence with data, design skills, journalism skills, bring that all together so that we end up producing a much more sort of joined up, more modern style of journalism. Developing core skills in the newsroom in those areas is important, but actually getting everyone else in the newsroom to realise when data should be playing a part in their story, when they should be spotting opportunities for using graphics in their stories, is also really, really important. So we've spent a lot of time recently on kind of training sessions, kind of trying to educate people across the newsroom on spotting those opportunities.